Ahead. So KQED is, and as you would have seen in this video, very mission-driven organization, which is reflected in all of their work and which has inspired our design. We've established 4 values for the project based on their mission and vision, which are shown here in the slide today, which I'll give you a really quick overview of, and then I can tell you about some details of the design. So we have transparency, which is about the quality and transparency of KQED's journalism. It's also about opening up the building to be more welcoming and inviting to the community, and also opening up the building from within to make new workspaces, bright and airy new workspaces for the staff. Innovation is about KQED's vision to drive innovation in all of the work that they do. Collaboration is about the art of creating media and what drives their creative process. And community, who it's KQED's mission to serve in everything that they do, and an important part of this project in better serving the community. This is an image of the existing building at the corner of Bryant and Mariposa Streets in the Mission. As Jason mentioned, it's a bit of a bunker-like building that doesn't have much presence in the neighborhood. The existing entry is off over here on the side. You can see the entry. It's a bit tucked away though, and doesn't have much presence. And then the strong impression in the neighborhood is with the kind of banners that are placed at the side of the building on that solid corner. So that was the KQED of today, and this is the vision for the renovation project. So this is a conceptual rendering of the new design. We'll be opening up that corner to make it really welcoming and inviting, and much more visible who KQED is and what they do here in the neighborhood. With this light and transparent facade that really reflects KQED's vision and all of the things that they're doing in the building. We're bulbing out the sidewalk area to create a bit more of a plaza-like space to make it a more generous flow into the building and make it more welcoming and inviting, and to enhance the entry into the building. And then up at the top roof level, we're extending the building up at a partial level on the roof, about 6,000 square feet, to create a few new programming spaces and an outdoor terrace for outdoor space for the staff. So those are kind of the major moves of the exterior design. The rest of it is all interior to the building, which I can show you in the floor plan. So there's just a few floor plan diagrams with some colors representing some of the different program spaces that are inside, which you'll see on different levels in the building. The first floor is partially below grade. There's parking, which will remain, and then a lot of back of house service spaces, so not much changes on this level. At the first floor, we have our new entry lobby that's pushed out to the corner of Bryant and Mariposa Streets. It's currently off to the side there on Mariposa, and as you can see with the rendering, we pushed it out to have more prominence in the neighborhood. So the colors on the floor plans, we've got blue for programming spaces within the building. They're a little hard to read with the projection, but you'll see some light green for the production studio spaces, 2 colors for office spaces, red and yellow, and then some other light brown back of house spaces. So this is an existing entry level that's in between the 2 floor levels, which we're just expanding a bit. This is the second floor of the building then. We're above grade at this point. Some of the functions on the space are there today and will remain. They're just being reconfigured and improved. So we have the newsroom up in red on the top side of the plan currently exists there today. We're just expanding and enhancing that space. radio studios on the left-hand side are being refreshed where they exist today. We have the production studio and the Commons, which is a new space for studio production and programming. And then in the upper right-hand side corner is the top of that new entry lobby space, which is a 1.5-story space. The third floor plan of the building has all of the content departments that are creating media, which we had hoped to share with you today, and all of the news and all of the great things you know about KQED. They're over on that one side of the building, and then the rest are office spaces supporting all of that programming on the opposite side of the plan. The goals are just to really open up the building and create much better working environment to support all of the great work that KQED does. And then we have these more public programming spaces up in the corner of the building that are in that new facade area that you saw in the rendering. And then lastly, up on the roof level, this is that partial new level we've added up on the roof. It's about 6,000 square feet over in this corner. More programming spaces up at the top level, and then a roof terrace that has some outdoor space for the staff and programs. So that's all we have to share with you today. Are there any questions?
I was going to say, it's awesome how you organize the whole thing there. It's easy to understand, it's quite clear.
Oh, great.
So thanks for that.
Thank you.
It's much more attractive than the current, I don't even know what to call the current building, but yeah,
Right. Well, we hope you'll come and see us when you're in.
I know.
What were your plans?
We haven't submitted to the planning department yet. We will be very soon. We actually have talked to Maya Small, who is here in the last presentation.
Hi, my name's Colby. I work as an individual giving officer for Larkin Street Youth Services, which is right around the corner. We're a nonprofit that's been in the neighborhood for 35 years. We serve young people experiencing homelessness. So we work with ages 12 to 24 and provide a continuum of care. So we provide education, housing, employment, career readiness training, behavioral health, medical services, sort of whatever our young people need, we meet them where they're at. When a young person comes in for an intake, we see what their needs are and then plug them in accordingly, making that on-ramp as easy as possible. So I think all of us know in San Francisco how much a crisis homelessness is, and it's especially so with young people. About 50% of young people experiencing homelessness had their first bout of homelessness before the age of 25. So if we're looking at the entire climate of homelessness in the Bay Area, about 20% of that is young people, of which only 8% of public funding is allocated to supporting youth services. So let's see, on every given night, about 1,300 young people will sleep on the streets. And so Larkin Street, we have about 500 beds with 13 housing programs scattered throughout the city that are tailored to different demographics of clients that we serve. So as you can see, 1,300 young people are sleeping on the streets every night, but we only have about 500 beds. How are we really serving our young people? So Larkin Street works a lot with the city and the state to allocate for more resources for affordable housing projects and to also advocate for policy which supports youth services. So on the local and state level, we've been in the Tenderloin. We're located on 134 Golden Gate, and we've been there for 3 years, but prior to that, we're on Larkin Street. And we began as a volunteer drop-in shelter. A collection of community members saw a need of supporting youth services, and so began Larkin Street. So I think we've been at our 134 Golden Gate site for the last 3 years, and that houses our engagement and community drop-in center, which is open from 8:30 to 2 Monday through Friday and provides drop-in services, so like laundry, 2 hot meals a day. We have a professional clothing closet. It also houses our education and employment programming and our art and music programming. And so it's really like a one-stop shop for our young people. They can come and access basic services. They can meet their case managers. They can attend our education programming night. They can play in our art and music room. They can begin to collaborate and work as a community to find what services they really need to get off the streets and move into sustainable and independent living. And Larkin Street has been incredibly successful. 3 out of 4 young people who go through our programming exit street life and move on for continued education. They have jobs, they move into stable housing. And we're always working to improve that number so that it's 100%. And Larkin Street is unique in that we're a nonprofit that has a research and evaluation team. So this resource is produced every 2 years by a research and evaluation team, which is a group of incredible academics who evaluate the efficacy of our programs. So as we're serving young people, they're seeing what's working, what's not, how do we change our programming to best serve the changing climate, and what are our young people telling us they need. So this is a resource that we produce for the community to not only educate the greater public about the issue of youth homelessness, but what are our solutions and what are we doing about it. So I think there's just some really incredible statistics in here of what we're seeing in San Francisco and how Larkin Street is responding. A lot of our young people come from all walks of life and require all different types of services. And so being nimble and flexible in our programming and evaluating what's successful and what's not is really important to serving them.
I don't know how many people know. I'm actually a founder of Larkin Street.
That's what Marilyn told me.
I was on Polk Street Town Hall, and at the time,
You should be giving this presentation.
I actually got the kids on Polk Street to fill out the surveys, which is the basis for the original operation level of Larkin Street back in the 80s.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see how much to learn about how much Larkin Street's evolved.
And I have always supported Larkin Street. I wish I could do more, but I'm limited.
I think the education, just the awareness
so
of...
I encourage people to look at Larkin Street as a good resource.
Mm-hmm.
If you know people who are homeless and youth, that's a great place to send them. I've actually taken kids to there before that I found on the street. And many of them have gone to college that they wouldn't have done if they had not been for Larkin Street. And so I'm really very supportive of the program. They're very happy you're here.
Yeah, it's really
And something people may want to realize, when Larkin Street started in 1984, they were the first on this planet for their program.
Yeah.
And now we're a
national model.
Last I knew we were national and international.
Yeah.
There's
So
programs like it all over the world now because of Larkin Street.
So our executive director
really
was asked by the White House to sit on this initiative to pilot the first national model for ending youth homelessness. So that's pretty cool that in our neighborhood we've got a national model for ending youth homelessness. And I think to see how much the climate is changing in the city, it's so hard walking around the city and seeing homelessness is such a crisis. And to see, young people in a lot of ways are invisible. They don't want to be seen. And so what are the ways that they're, that we can't tell that they're homeless? They're dressing like their peers, they're travelers, they're couch surfing, they're doing various ways of moving throughout the community. And so people don't know how much of an issue it is.
When I was young, I was homeless in Philadelphia, and those young kids, I was young too, because I would go to the shower and wear regular clothes. For anyone that didn't look bad.
Yeah, Larkin Street, I wish I'd brought it, but we have a new video that we made this year that's like 4 minutes long. And it's on our website, and it's about how young people are homeless and why they're invisible.
Problem I have with the whole homeless event. How come it hasn't done what they dumps get out of that condition that they did too? But there was young kids, some of them, who got old out there.
Right. Yeah, and I think for us, we really see to catch people before they've experienced homelessness for years and years and years. You know, young people, we have 13 different scattered housing sites. One of them is called Diamond Youth Shelter, and it's an emergency shelter for youth ages 12 to 18, so underage youth. Yeah, and so we see a lot of instances where these young people are part of the foster care system, or have been in the juvenile system, and so are running from certain situations. And so the shelter is there to support them and to provide them services. And we work very closely with other agencies in the city for reunification, but also to make sure that we're doing the best job we can in serving young people. So San Francisco is rolling out a new system called coordinated entry, which allows social services to communicate effectively with one another. So if you're accessing services over here and then you come over here, we can now speak to each other and see what services you've accessed to then provide you the best care possible. Whereas now, without coordinated entry, you could access services over here and then over here, and we would have no clue. And it makes it really hard to get people off the street and into affordable housing.
You have to go through this whole process.
Yeah.
Every time you go somewhere new, it's like
Right.
you gotta go through the whole thing all over again. It's
Right.
crazy.
And we've seen too, you know, the effectiveness of our services to make, like sometimes, you know, one of the hardest decisions for our young people is just coming inside and trusting us to give them services. And so we have to make that door open and as easy as possible for our young people.
You were talking about the 500 beds. I was curious, are most of those, I'm assuming most of those are like permanent, like, you know, long-term housing
Yeah.
to keep them housed while you're working on other things, or is it?
Yeah, so we do have also, yeah, they vary. They're residential housing programs, or majority of them. We have a few shelters, and then we also have rental subsidies. So we have this one program called Pathways, which is on average a 2-year program, but it differs by a young person, where that person is either in school or has a job, but they can't afford their rent in San Francisco. And so Larkin Street will sign their lease, and they'll pay a portion of their rent to us, and we'll make the difference. So say they begin and they pay 30% and we pay 70%. Well, over the course of 2 years, as they're going through budgeting classes, as they're learning how to manage their money, as they're learning how to keep their job and maintain their employment and continue to progress professionally, that ratio changes. And so over the course of, you know, say they begin and they can give 30% and we give 70%, at the end of the 2 years, they're given 100%, and we're still the holder of the lease. We take all of that money that the young person has given in rent, and we give it back to the young person, and that's now their down payment for their apartment. And so that program has been one of the first in the country, and it's been super successful. And so what we're really working on, you know, across, you know, not only building out our services to be able to serve the 1,300 young people that will sleep on the streets, but we're working to, you know, have as many beds as possible and build out this programming so that when a young person, ideally, like, homelessness is rare, brief, and one time, and like we can pick those young people up quickly.
So I'm assuming, how financial structure works, but I'm assuming if we can get Prop C passed, that would
Yeah, so Larkin
probably
Street
help
is
your efforts to grow your services.
absolutely, and Larkin Street is in full support of Prop C, and that is really significant. You know, affordable housing is such a crisis in the city, and so being a nonprofit that's providing these services, we're always looking for more real estate and more housing so that we can offer more beds.
I will say, you know, when I got here and experienced homelessness, by the time I experienced homelessness, I was past the age that could have accessed
Yeah.
services. But I've seen a lot of people come through your agency, and you really have done. I just want to say, you know, I'm a witness to the amazing miracles that come out the other side of the program you all offer. I've seen some
Thank you.
really amazing young people do some really amazing things. I can even think of a couple of great examples that are really shining right now.
Yeah,
recently. come out.
absolutely. And I think
So-
working at Larkin is just so humbling. And so our administrative offices, I work on the development team, so I work on the funding side. I work with, I run around the city and I meet with people who I think may be interested in funding. It's really interesting. But it's fun to make connections with people who wouldn't otherwise be connected to the issue, and to provide that education opportunity. But we're housed in the same space as our drop-in center, and so to work with our young people every day is so much fun.
Well, I had the fund development manager at TNBC yesterday, we were having a conversation, and she told me she thinks of herself as like a modern day Robin Hood. Like these people have a bunch of money, and we need it. So
Right.
she loves her job. She feels like a modern day Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Reggie?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, the word affordable is a bad word in this city, because going back to the affordable thing there.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if you actually build low-income housing,
Mm-hmm.
so that way people can actually need it for something instead.
Yeah.
And I just hate to hear that word affordable housing.
Yeah,
but I
you're
know
right. I should be
nothing
using low
affordable.
income. Yeah, I think about this. I was like, I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I don't live in San Francisco because it's too expensive for me to live here, so it's gonna take me a while to get home. But yeah.
There was quite a few buildings that, from the Academy of Art, they had kind of taken a lot of rental housing out, and for their so-called, for their students, they said basically they were ripping off their students, ripping off the what's it called, the loans. A lot of that was going on, and they acquired a lot of property, and but they were they were doing things to the property, taking it off the rental housing, and they were making modifications, and they weren't telling the planning department. And so there was a lawsuit, and there's like $60 million plus X amount of buildings that can be returned or have been returned to housing, like SRO and all that. Are you involved in any, thinking of any of that?
I don't. I'm not. But I will definitely use that housing and that funding appropriately.
Yeah, it was the city attorney.
5 or 6 if they return.
Wow. Yeah, I'll look into it. I haven't
Yeah,
heard about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll look into it.
this is one of the difficulties is that they.
I'm really suspicious
Well,
of what the planning department came in here presenting about, because it sounds to me like it's making it easier to make modifications to houses that are already incredibly expensive, to make them more expensive.
Yeah,
See,
I
the
think,
lady came over, she talked to me and she said, well, we have a lot of affordable projects, but also have a hard time getting through the planning project. I don't know if that really offsets. What were you gonna say?
I was just thinking that I think it's just so important as a community to see the crisis that's happening and plug in where we can all best support.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this when they presented at the planning department, it's an example of, you don't really know what to make of it. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
Right. Yeah, I think that one of the things that drives me a lot is working in the community and for the community. And a place like Larkin Street, it's like, I think you probably feel this as one of the founders. It's like you walk in and you can feel the energy of how much momentum there is to
It's
ending
always
this
been
issue.
there. It's
Yeah.
always been there. Since the day they opened the doors, that energy's been there.
Yeah, and I think Larkin Street is committed to ending youth homelessness, and I think that we can all find a way to support that.
One of the things that got me onto having you come here and do a presentation was dignified housing for homeless youth. And Lauren, do you know anything about that?
I don't, not enough to speak about it.
Okay.
I think you might know more.
Heard it?
I have two other quick questions.
Yeah.
Well, it's really the same question, but, so you said something about a professional clothes closet, so I was thinking like, I had this bank executive who donated a whole bunch of, because he redid his clothes, I got like a whole stack of really like, high-end,
Great,
practically new dress shirts that are too small for me.
great.
I mean, is something like that,
Yeah.
do you accept those kind of donations?
Yeah, so we have a professional clothing closet, which is for young people's interviews. It's like, well, if you go for an interview, what are you gonna wear? So that will absolutely be taken. For the holidays, we do backpacks for each of our young people. So if they're in a shelter, we have backpacks that have like a sleeping bag and towels and toiletries and basic needs. So we try to give that to every single young person that's in our services for the holidays. So we work a lot with corporations and community groups throughout the bay to acquire those donations so that we can assemble these packs. Professional clothing is always needed, but we'll
I mean,
take,
it's like
and
really nice stuff.
yeah, and our residential housing programs are always looking for things. Like one of our residential housing programs, fridge just broke. So we reached out to some community members to see if they could bring a new, purchase a new fridge for our facilities. So we always have in-kind donation needs like that, but for sure, if you would want to bring them over to 134 Golden Gate, we'll definitely make use of them.
Are there like volunteer opportunities for folks there? Like, I mean, most of us don't have a lot of money to donate, but
Right.
are there other ways that we can contribute?
Right. I think that the most meaningful way to contribute as an individual is in advocacy and education. 98% of our young people that we serve have experiences of trauma or abuse. And so we don't offer one-on-one volunteer opportunities with our young people because they need consistent case managers. They need to be able to build those trusting relationships, and it can be challenging when we have volunteers coming through. That said, we do have volunteer opportunities for events. So we have fundraising events throughout the year, and we always need volunteers for that. We also are really just encouraging people to spread the word and provide a deeper education in our community. I think we see homelessness as a big crisis in the city, but we don't necessarily always think of young people. And so encouraging that education and pointing people in our doors. If you're seeing a young person that seems to be in a state of stress, providing them opportunities to plug into our services.
And some of the biggest volunteers they do have are their own kids.
Yeah, I
Because
think one of our
because
actual
they,
top.
they give back
yeah.
1-to-1
Yeah.
what the Larkin Street's giving
I
them.
didn't hear that.
Their biggest group of volunteers they have are their own kids.
Yeah, so we do have a street outreach team. We have 3 housing programs in the Haight Street Referral Center and a few housing programs in the Haight, but we do have a street outreach team, which are trained case managers that go out the street and approach young people. But a lot of young people access their services by word of mouth. They hear from one of their friends that they ask, I got this here. And so I think that's something that's really powerful about Larkin Street is seeing the community that young people develop. It's really exciting.
This is how we got Larkin Street all over the country. Kids here would go to like Detroit and talk about how wonderful the program was here. Why aren't they doing something there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think
the church groups and other groups in Detroit
Right.
got together and contacted here and started something there. That's how it got all over the country,
Yeah.
was the kids themselves.
They got sharp guys like, like Zach.
Now, I mean, now
Yeah.
it's iconic.
Washington and
Oh yeah,
Appleton,
yeah, and the fact that our executive director sits on a White House initiative and she's constantly pushing policy and she's constantly, pushing for greater resources. It's like we can do so much locally, but this is a national issue. With a recent poll just came out that 1 in 10 young people in the country will experience homelessness this